Rudolph Wanderone, the legendary Minnesota Fats, the most famous pool player of this or any other age, star of stage, screen, radio, any other media extant. How did all this start, Fats?
All started when I was 2 years old. My people were very poor and Swiss immigrants in New York City. And in order for me to make it, I had to hang in saloons from morning till night, and the bartenders and the cop on the beat and all the customers would give me something. My old man worked for $1 a day at the turn of the century. And it was one of them things, but I always had a picnic. I never had no tough times like other people in that same condition. And I hung in saloons, and I never drank or smoked in my life, never had the first one. And I would sit on a pool table, the cop would put me up there and give me cookies or give me pretzels or give me hard-boiled eggs. In New York, the free lunch is hard-boiled eggs, sliced hot dogs, and pretzels. And then a multi-millionaire would come in and give me a $5 note, you know, or a $2.50 or $5 gold piece. I always had money. And then I would go from saloon to saloon. You couldn't go out the door in any direction you went, 3 blocks, and everybody knew me, see? And I was born and raised in Washington Heights. That's where the George Washington Bridge is now, before it was ever heard of. And but I went to all different neighborhoods and different places. People, I hung with nothing but legislatures too. They all come in and have a beer, you know, nickel for a beer, dime for a shot of whiskey. And then they was going to go to the barber shop, like the mayor or a ward leader or somebody, you know, and they would take me with them and sit me on a chair, you know, and I'd listen to them, you know. See, I learned everything I know from imbeciles and from smart people.
I understand along the way you've met a few famous people, Fats. Can you drop a few names for us?
I knew every movie star that ever lived, kings, queens, on my show, Celebrity Visitors. George Burns, Milton Berle, Annette Fabray, Zsa Zsa Gabor. There's not a star in Hollywood that I don't know. And I went with most all the women stars. Jane Russell was a very good friend of mine, so was what's her name, Zsa Zsa Gabor, and all of them was all real good friends. I went with Mae West way back in the 20s. You know, I used to sing too, you know. I used to sing with Rudy Valley. I sing at the Palace Theater. I never cared about it. So everything that I ever done great, they forced it on me, because I never cared nothing about singing, you know. And they finally had me in London and Paris singing, you know, and all that jazz. And that was what it was all about. But I knew kings, queens, maharajas, Arab sheiks. Fatima danced me 60 years ago in Istanbul in the Sultan's palace. Then she danced me in Iran, in the Shah's father's palace. And there's a lot of Iranians from over there, you know, that live here now and live in different places and work in hotels, and they all knew about me when their father knew about me and everything, see? Then she danced me in Cairo, Egypt at the Shepherd Hotel. And I used to play cards. I watched card games from morning till night. I was 8 years old. I'd been anybody living playing any kind of cards. I've played every top card player that ever lived on earth. They all got broke.
Well, you've made a few bucks over the years in these various endeavors. What have you done with it? Have you invested in Trump Tower, or?
That's a real long story. I get unbelievable money now. I get $100,000 when I go to Atlantic City and open one of them casinos with all the players, this and that, you know. And on top of that, they fly me in with 6 or 8 guests, and I had the whole top floor, the suites and everything. I opened 5 casinos in Atlantic City. I opened resorts and the Claridge with ESPN. I opened, not resorts, the Claridge and the resorts, I opened with 3 different networks. Played at resorts with NBC, ABC, and CBS. CBS is when you see Madden. ABC is when you see Cosell. And then I opened Caesars in Lake Tahoe. And I've done a lot of things. I made several movies.
I've been at several of your exhibitions where there was tens of thousands of people. Can you recall the biggest crowd that you ever played? 350,000,
and I got it right in my room. We show you out through the Pope of Rome by 100,000 people. And when I was on the podium, I got it right there, black and white, when I opened the movie The Player. And when I stood above all the people for 4 miles away, the people were still coming in. I outdrew anybody living. I put 138,000 in a Coliseum, in Indianapolis on a Saturday and Sunday. I put 55,000 people in the Roberts Stadium in Evansville, Indiana, and it only holds 15.
That's a pretty good trick.
You ain't a kidding. See, I know everybody from every nationality on earth and everything, you know. And they'd come in droves. I'm known. I can't walk up and down the street. There's everybody living. Hello, how are you, this and that. I signed 100 autographs in a hotel. I stayed at the Claridge Hotel. I mean, the Hermitage Hotel in Nashville, you know. And I'm 2 blocks from the convention center. And every living human that comes by from all over the world, you know, they always come over there, want to see me.
I understand you're kind of a car buff. I can remember visiting your home in Dowell, Illinois, and there were 4 or 5 limousines parked in there.
I had limousines. I drove Duesenbergs, and ever since the turn of the century. I got 3 Duesenbergs in the Ford Museum in Detroit. And I had the most exotic cars on earth that some people never heard of, you know, see. And I always drove fabulous cars, always. I had a brand new limousine in my backyard, which you must have seen, the white one. I let the dogs and cats sleep in.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because your kindness to animals is kind of legendary too. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Animals, what about the people? I fed 1 million people in my life or more, and I took care of an entire community in southern Illinois that was absolutely destitute. The largest mine in the world, the Kathleen mine, blump, closed overnight. Nobody had a match. They didn't know which way to turn. I give people $5,000 and $10,000 that I hardly even knew to go to Chicago or somewhere else and try to find work, you know. I'm national champion Easter Seals too, you know.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I got it right here in my pocket.
That's very interesting. We'll trust you for it.
Yeah, I'll show it to you, yeah. And I played for there's no charity on earth I haven't played for. I played with the Cardinals for 12 years. Got that over there for you to see too. All the stars and celebrities play the police department. Every nickel goes to charity, and I'm the star of that show too.
I remember very clearly the first time we met. I was in Johnson City, Illinois, 1961, and I was leaning on the side of my car, wondering if I should go into this den of iniquity that was full of all these peculiar pool players. And you walked up to me and introduced yourself and said, "How'd you like to come inside and see some pool?" And we've been pretty good pals ever since then.
Well, they had the best player, card sharks and everything else there, you know, they came.
It was such an interesting scene. You recall, of course, your good friends George and Paulie Jansko ran this incredible tournament down there. Can you describe that scene a little bit for us?
It's very simple. First, they had a little tavern, and they booked horses. You understand? And no money, hardly any money, a bar. And then, when I told them I would put a tournament there and stand up for it, you know, and everything like that, then they opened the one you're talking about, which was like a half a mile on the other side of town, and that's the show bar. And then they made a super nightclub and everything, which you know, he was there, billiard room, and then they had a queue room in the back, and that's where they have the championship of the world. And all the great players, everyone that was great at that time, was there. They never missed a year because it was a good spot to play, even if the tournament, see, in the olden days you didn't make much money playing tournaments or this and that, but there you could win 5,000 or 6,000 or 8,000 if a guy like Mizrak or one of them great players would come in, you know. See, but Mizrak is a little too young. He's a tremendous player, but the older players, you know, that would come there and they would play, and they have a chance to win some money, you know.
The movie The Hustler was, of course, the greatest impetus this game has ever seen, and of course it was one of the greatest movies of all time. And in that film, Jackie Gleason played a role which was said to be Minnesota Fat, said to be
Gleason
you.
Gleason used to rack balls for me when he was a kid in Brooklyn. See, Gleason hung in pool rooms all his life, and later on when he got a little older, then he was around Newark, and he was born right across from the East River, you know, in Long Island, and wound up in Brooklyn, you know. See, and I used to go in all the 5 boroughs and play champions, you know. But he was a pretty good player, too. He was no tremendous player, but he was a pretty good player. I knew him all his life. And we were almost identical twins at one time, you know, like he was an inch taller. I used to be 5'10 and a half. He was 5'11 and a half. And we had the same tailor when he got a hold of some cheese, you understand? Finest tailors in New York.
Of all the celebrities you've met, and you've met so many, who do you suppose was the best player of all? Who really took the game seriously?
Well, James Garner's a very good player. It plays, and I played them all, you know, and you hardly ever say, I let Zsa Zsa Gabor win. How could Zsa Zsa Gabor? Fantastic beauty, you understand? I knew the whole family. And she couldn't hold the cue, but it's a show, see? So I would dabble around for a few minutes, then I scratch on the 8 ball, and that's how she win, you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah, I knew her all her life. She's a very good friend of mine.
Do you ever feel sorry that you've devoted your entire life to this sport?
I never devoted anything to anything. I say, well, everything is automatic on this earth. Everybody that tells you different, they don't know what they're talking about. Every living creature, you could be destined to be a bank robber, you could be destined to be a multi-millionaire, and everything under the sun will come about. So I do 5 things better than anybody living. There ain't nobody on earth. I sit down with a card player, got no chance on earth. All them greats you heard about, Arnold Rothstein, Nick the Greek, Nate Raymond, Nicky Arnstein, Titanic Thompson, I ironed them all out. Every one of them. I used to play cards with them. See, that wasn't my nickname to start with. That came later. See, the director, Jane Russell, and Howard Hughes gave me the biggest award on earth, the Humanitarian Award, and she presented that to me at the Landmark where he was living on the 9th floor. I knew Howard Hughes all his life, too. And so then the director made it Minnesota Fast. I'm born and raised in New York City. Times Square was my beat, see? But they could call me Hong Kong, Tokyo, or out of Mongolia. I've been everywhere on earth, see?
You mentioned that you were tops in 5 different
That's
disciplines,
exactly
so
right.
you said cards and pool. What are the others?
I'll talk anybody on earth.
Right.
Anybody on earth, I watch people talk, they're ridiculous. I can talk from now until doomsday and never look at a sheet of paper. I win the championship of the world twice in Toronto, Canada. I made 6 90-minute specials in Toronto, Canada in the last 10 years. And win the championship of the world twice. I got it right in the other coat pocket to show you in black and white, what everybody knows anyhow. But I watch people talk and they don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
Do you ever get tired of talking?
I never get tired of doing anything. If I get tired, I not quit.
That's great.
Stop.
Well, we want to thank you for your legendary help to the billiard industry and for being a real icon for this business and for being a hell of a nice guy.
That's good. I'm glad to be here.